Alright, so we're checking out the Radiomaster T8L. This is an express ELRS transmitter and an entry-level transmitter at that. Gamepad style, Xbox controller style controller, and this is actually a lower end entry-level controller compared to their previous entry-level controller, the Radiomaster Pocket, one of my favorite radios and also my daily driver radio. But for those of you that are considering getting into the hobby but do not care to learn about EdgeTX or OpenTX, which is fine. I mean, there's a lot of people that, say that learning about EdgeTX and OpenTX is a must-have in FPV. I don't agree with that. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would disagree with me. I don't think that any of the functions in OpenTX are necessarily important for most people that are starting out, even people that have been flying for a while. I, for example, have been flying for more than 10 years, and I barely use any important features in OpenTX. So that just kind of gives you an idea of who that might be for. Now, if you're an airplane pilot, that might be different, but I don't think this particular controller here is targeted towards airplane pilots, even though it does have trim controls here on the radio. It is very capable and fully functional. And for those of you that believe that you need to learn OpenTX or EdgeTX, then of course this radio isn't for you. If you have already got a radio like the Pocket or the Boxer or some other high-end radio, I'm not sure why you even continue to watch this video unless you're perhaps curious about this radio for a friend that's starting out. And for just starting out, this is going to be totally fine. You're going to be able to use this radio for many years and probably not even bat an eye. Now, granted, as an entry-level radio, this is limited to 100 milliwatts of power. So it even says here on the manual here that the max range is 100 meters. Now, I, for one, at 100 milliwatts, I've gone further than this. I'm not going to tell you exactly the range I got because I got pretty far. On 100 milliwatts on Express LRS, you can go, I've seen people go many, many miles. There's actually documented proof of that on YouTube. But because this is, being targeted towards beginners, they're basically saying this is your max range. So basically, don't fly too far away with this one. We can't guarantee that you're going to have a good experience going beyond 100 meters, so keep that in mind. And if you want to see the rest of the specs here, in terms of the size, there's the weight, a little over 200 grams of the battery, and yeah, it's 100 milliwatts max. Now, in terms of looking at the radio itself, very similar in looks and style to, this is the DJI Remote Controller 3. It's a little bit bigger, and the distance between the gimbals is a little bit different. So, I mean, what looks very similar, but obviously not exactly the same. And the color is a little bit lighter in this gray color compared to the DJI controller. And it does come in, I think, white and a light blue color as well. You have additional buttons here. You have a power button, you have a mode button, that's for binding. The sticks here are Hall sensor gimbals, and the sticks are removable. There's a bit of a grip here on the edge, so if you want to pinch, you can do that. And also has like pointy ends here on the top. And this is mainly going to be for thumbers like myself. And then you can unscrew the sticks there and stick them in the back if you want. And then these covers do come off very easily. Just kind of rip them off like this. And I've got two 18650 cells in here, so there's one on each side. The battery bay fits these flat cells a little bit better than the ones at Radiomaster cells. So this is their standard recommended 18650, 3200 milliamp hours. It does come with these little button tops. They do fit in here, but you do have to kind of jam them in kind of hard, but they do fit as well. If you want to adjust the gimbal tension, you can use the controls here. So there's a hex screw they have to use to get inside. You can see here the left-right is over here. The up-down is right over there. So you're going to feed into that slot right there. Same as on this side here. So left-right's over here, and The up down is over there. So to get these back in here, I usually just do the opposite of basically instead of pulling from here, you're going to stick it in here first. That's going to be simpler. And these should go in fairly easily. You shouldn't have to force it. So it just goes in like so. And then you just kind of pull this little flap in like this. And it should just snap into place, and everything should be flush like that. All right, so looking at the top of the radio, you've got your labeled switches. So these on the shoulders, this is SA and SC. These are momentary switches, but they are programmable in a way that you can make them into latching switch. The one that's a latching switch on this one is the SC switch here. This is a physical latching switch. You can go in here like this. And this is intended to be used for arming. And you do have a dial here for those analog controls, maybe like gimbal or something that you want to control. You've got your USB-C port here on top. So it's going to be good for going to your computer and using it for your simulators. It does show up as a joystick. I think it shows up as a Radiomaster Sim as the name of the device in the Windows. And then switches SB and SC are 3 position switches like this, and they're physical switches. All the switches feel very nice. You have LED here to indicate your power, and to turn it on, just long press the power button. You wait for the lights go on and you hear a beep, and then your throttle should go down. And then when you hear 2 beeps, that means it's ready to connect, and then you can go ahead and power on your drone. Now to do binding without using the web interface, which I'll talk about here in a second, you basically go to your drone, you do your normal Express LRS binding routine. You plug and unplug 3 times to put the receiver into bind mode. And then when your T8L is on, you long press the M button, and then it will go into binding mode. And then once it is indicated that it is bound, you hear some flashing and some beeps, and then you should have control at that point. So in order to connect this to the web interface, basically you use a browser, web browser, like some sort of Chrome-based web browser, to configure your settings in the radio. So instead of using something like OpenTX or RichTX, you can configure everything via a web interface, and it's very simplified, very easy to do. What you do is you make sure the radio is off. You long press the power and the M button together, and then when it turns on, it'll be in this, it's called VCP mode. You can see that slightly different beep sound, and then 2 beeps, and then you go ahead and plug it into your computer and then connect to it via your browser. There's a link that's in the manual that I'll tell you where to go to and basically enter the web interface. And in order to get into the basically what is equivalent to the Lua script that you see in OpenTX or EdgeTX, they have something similar in the web UI. You can go there and change your settings like you would in the Lua script that you would do in OpenTX or EdgeTX. And one of the things you can change there is your transmitter power. So it goes from 10 milliwatts to 100 milliwatts. So you can go all the way down if you want to extend your battery time. If you're not going to be flying very far, 10 milliwatts is fine for flying whips indoors, for example. But also in that Lua script interface is the ability to enter your binding phrase. So you can put that in there. But in order to enter your binding phrase, you have to enable Wi-Fi on this radio and then connect to the radio via Wi-Fi through another browser, like you would normally, like on any other Express LRS transmitter. And from there, you can enter your binding phrase in that situation. Now, for the rest of the stuff that you do in the web interface, it's pretty standard. You can monitor your channels. You can see where things are located. You can remap your channels. So if you don't like channel 5 on switch SA or SE, you can move it over to a different channel completely, or a different switch. You can calibrate your sticks in the web interface. So very basic functions there. But the thing I like about the momentary switches here, the SA and SD, as I mentioned before, you can change the behavior of these from single click to basically where it's acting as a momentary switch to a latching switch type behavior using a single click or a double click. So let me just demonstrate here really quick. I changed the behavior of the SA switch here. Instead of just a momentary switch, it will just basically go to high and low when you let go. It will hold the high position, and you'll hear a beep when it does that. So this is a single click function. You click it, you hear 2 beeps, and that'll actually maintain the high position on the channel. And then when you click it again, you hear a single beep, and it goes back to the low position. On the SC switch here, I changed that to a double click behavior. So when you double click it, it will give you that 2 beeps. Now that'll maintain the high position, and then you'll have to double click it again to go back to the low position. And it goes back to low. If you just hit it once, you don't hear any click at all. Unlike on this one here, only one click will initiate that behavior. You have to hit it twice on this one here when you set it up for 2 clicks, like that. So you can use these for arming, which is what I did for this one here. I actually prefer my arming switch on my right index finger here, and that's what I have on my other radios like my Pocket. So I did change that in the web UI settings. It was very easy to do. So overall, it's a pretty good radio. Obviously, not really intended for people that want to fly far away. It's going to be for beginners, and I think the people that are going to mostly enjoy this are going to be whoop pilots. So if you're primarily maybe a whoop racing pilot, and you like these sort of gamepad style controllers, this is definitely one to check out, because you're just going to be flying indoors, and you'll have a very solid radio. It's going to work for most of your functions, unless there's something in OpenTX that you really need. This radio is probably going to cover 90, 95, 98% of the stuff for most people out there that are just casual flyers. And I'm not exactly sure what the price point of this is going to be. It did change a few times while I was reviewing this, so I'm not going to say on camera, because someone will watch this video 5 years from now and tell me that the price is not what I said it was. So click the link in the description if you want to know what the current price is. I imagine it's going to be less than the cost of the Pocket. In my opinion, it ought to be, because the Pocket, I think the base Pocket is like 65, and this one definitely should be less than that because of the basically lower transmitter power and fewer features. But it's more simplified for beginners, and I think overall it's a solid radio. It's in terms of construction and build, everything works as expected. It is definitely in line with all other Radiomaster products in terms of build quality and functionality. It's just that everything's just on the lower end and basically on the less costlier end, targeting people who are just starting out. So again, that's going to be my review of the Radiomaster T8L in this. Again, link in the description if you guys want to check it out. That'll do for this one. I will talk to you guys in the next video.